Hey, good evening and welcome to Between the Lanes, episode number 86. I'm Ron,
I'm Shane.
and we're here to talk about slot cars and slot car racing. And tonight's show, we got race results, upcoming races, and we also have some more tech stuff because last week, after we talked about commutator diameters, we had some people ask questions about other stuff about armatures. So we will talk about that on this episode of Between the Lanes. Episode number 86. Find us on YouTube, Slot Racers, the channel. We now have 86 episodes up, some how-to articles, or how-to videos, I guess I shouldn't call them articles, and some special episodes since the show started coming up on almost, a year and a half now, so August will be 2 years. So find us on Facebook. Between the Lanes is the page on Facebook. And race results for last weekend, there wasn't too many races, so the winning report will be short. That kind of rhymed. So the Samka Nationals was held down in South Africa at Port Elizabeth at the PE Model Racing Car Club, and this was their, I guess, yearly nationals. And there's a picture of the track, flat road course, 6 lanes, kind of a neat little.
It looks nice. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know which direction they run. I guess I'm going to say they probably run clockwise. Well,
if you look at the rubber pattern, I guess that really don't tell you either.
Yeah, I'm thinking counterclockwise. Well, yeah, it does. It's hard. Anyway, I don't know. I think either direction the track would be fun to run in. So,
yeah.
So in the scale 24th class, Gustav Heyman was the winner. Colin Lenz was second. Willie Taylor was third. I think there's the podium shot of the top 3 in scale 24th. In production 124th, Gustav was the winner again, with Louise Petzer second, Alex Froh in third. And there's a picture of your top 3 in the production 124th class. In this class, if we go back to the results, you can see that the winner had 132.8 laps, and second had 132.79. So I believe that is a picture of the finish of the race. With Gustav's car yellow and Louise's there in the pink and black. And a pretty close race, if that is the actual finish. So looking at the section numbers, I'm thinking that probably was it, an 80 to a 79. So, and then in the team race, it was an endurance race. Team PMCC was the winner with 1,211 laps. Race World, which had Russell Sheldon on its team, won 11:56, and the ELSCC, which I'm sure is something Stock Car Club, had 11:46. So congratulations to all the winners down in South Africa. And I think they might have run another class or two, but if they did, I didn't find any results for those other classes. So moving right along. Retro East was at Speed Zone, Mount Holly, New Jersey last weekend. Retro Stock Car, the winner was Jimmy Williams, Dom Luongo second, Ed Saul third. Congrats to Jimmy Williams, the 2018-2019 Retro East Stock Car champion. And then the F1 class, Keith Libby was the winner, Jimmy Williams second, and Dom Luongo was in third. And hey, that's all we got for the.
That was short.
But yeah, I didn't have many races on my calendar that was going to be run last week. Race last week. So that was all.
Sunday.
I was waiting for Walker.
Yeah.
Okay, so this coming weekend, which is the first weekend in April, we've got B&E Crosstown Challenge Series, along with the Midwest Flat Track Series at Chicagoland Raceway. Pitt, Ohio is at Northeast Raceway, and the ORS is at Mark's Model World. And the Ohio Oval Series is at Fast Alley. And then the weekend of the 13th, we got Midwest Spec Series. We got Retro East at Port Jeff. Mid-American Hardbody Super Stock 1000 at Pro Slot. The Buckeye Retro Series will be at HMS to race on the orange track. And then the weekend of the 20th, which is Easter, OCC's at Race-O-Rama. USCA is in action. And on Monday, the 22nd of April, the scale mats begin.
I think that's what open practice.
The open practice and racing starts on Tuesday. That's the 2019 USRA scale mats at the Slot Car Track Concord. And the weekend of the 27th, we've got, while that's going on elsewhere, we have F2000 at Lucky Bob's, ORS at Tom Thumb, Gator Retro Racing Region, and Retro East is at Fast Track the end of April. So that's what we got coming up the next few weeks. Social media. So, I don't know. Well, Dino Talk came up again. Dino Talk. So, I had this picture for Walker, but he's not with us tonight. I was going to ask Walker if that's like his dyno, but this is like an old school dyno where they actually dynoed the car, the motor through the car, the tires and gears and stuff. So I guess what precipitated this was Pro Slot earlier in the week put up a couple of different dyno charts testing American armed 16D motors against ProSlot FK motors. Both tests, the ProSlot FK motors came out on top as far as dyno results go. And, there was some bantering online about dynos and stuff. And like I always say, if dynos were the way to go, everybody would have one. Someone would have figured out how to make them affordable for everybody, kind of like the tire chewer.
Right.
Years ago, not everyone had a tire chewer, and a few companies, figure out how to make them available to the masses at a decent price, and everyone has, tire chewers. I mean, I say everyone, not every slot car racer, but your more serious racers that we see at traveling series races, they have them, and new guys eventually wind up buying one, so it's kind of a must-have item. So, the dyno test that ProSlot put out, I mean, it's two different motors being compared to one another. I mean, that's one good thing a dyno's for, if you want to see what one type of motor does against another type or another group against another group. But I think, or I believe, and I know that nothing beats on-track testing for motors. So I think if you're a motor company or you're trying to design and engineer and develop or improve motors, a dyno can help you. But I think for the average racer, I don't think a dyno is necessary. But hey, if you want one and they're out there, get you one and have fun. See what you learn. So, and we talked about com diameter last week, and we had a few questions.
Needs to be cleaned.
But,
So that needs to be cleaned.
Well, okay, so I was sent an armature to recondition, and
is that one of mine?
No, not one of yours. Names will not be mentioned. I mean, not that makes any difference, but
right.
This was a brand new arm that was taken out of the package, installed in a motor, and it was ran on the track, and it did not perform that well, which, I mean, sometimes is the case with brand new armatures, but sometimes is it the armature, is it the setup, is it the person building the motor, is it
right.
a bunch of different variables. But anyway, the whole thing was they put the motor together and they wanted to get the arm hot and then set it up for rebalancing conditioning. So when I took the first swipe on the armature and stopped, I seen the black ring around the center of the commutator. I'm like, wow, that brush had a really good hard spot in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because that's definitely, I mean, you've got a groove there where outside that's,
Is that a Coford arm?
Huh?
Is that a Coford arm?
I said no names would be mentioned. But again, so anyway, we're just moving along. So then when I rotated the arm, it's like, oh, this comes pretty out around. And then when I turned it to the third pole, it's like, wow. So, that's what happens with new armatures as you run them. The comms shift a little bit, move, comm plates lift a little bit, and things swell, yeah, and they go out around. That's why you need to true your commutators.
We definitely got good and hot if all that happened, so that was a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, the stacks didn't turn. I mean, the arm didn't get super hot or anything, but the arm was way out of balance, too. I mean,
right.
He was way out of balance, and I don't know I don't know what it came out of the package, but it's hard to believe that as far out as it was, it shifted that much because the arm really looked like it hardly been run. So,
right.
But it's all been corrected and sent back to the customer, and I'm sure it will run way better than it did the first time out. So that's what I have on that. So last week we talked about the comm diameters, and on that commutator, after I got it all cleaned up and trued, that comm measured 205. So
that means you 208.
Yeah, it'd be 208, 207 out of the package. So yeah. So if it runs really good when they get it back, then it'll be like it's got a lot of life in it. And I guess it's going to run better.
Right.
It's not as fast as something else, and they've got some meat there to cut the comm down to see if that makes it. But sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So one of the questions that was asked was, does truing the comm affect the balance of the armature when you're balancing? And that was something that many years ago I had kind of tested, and I could see where an average used comm, I guess. I don't know any other way to say it, but normal use, no, the commutator, trued or untrued, doesn't affect the balance. Now, if you had a commutator that had a plate that really lifted or something, and the arm could still be trued and saved without taking the plate off it when you try truing it, then yeah, that might affect the balance. But generally speaking, the commutator, trued or untrued, does not affect the balance. So the other night, after the question was asked, I was balancing arms, and I thought, okay, let's just do this again. It's been a long time since I did that.
Right. Yeah.
So I had both some Chinese, like Pro Slot Super 16D arms, and I had some American-made 16D arms. And I didn't true the comms on them. I cleaned them up, and I spun them up and I corrected them, and then I went over and I trued the comms, and I came back, and it didn't change the balance one iota. And I thought that the Chinese ones might be affected because those comms are not very round to begin with. I mean, those comms aren't trued to begin with, but they're not the most round things either. So in both of those, truing the comm didn't affect the balance. So the other question was, does armature die affect the balance? And I knew that didn't, but I went ahead and, hey, while we're doing this, let's do this. So, I balanced the arms because when I balance, and I don't know about any of the other balancers, but I don't balance with the die on, because the way we mark the armatures with die on there can affect the light picking up the mark.
Your timing, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you get that. You can see the belts where the belts run that turns the armature while it's in the machine on the die, and you got to wind up the die in the arm. And so I always mark the arms shiny stacks, clean shiny stacks, so it contrasts better. And so again, spun the arm, got it down to 0, went over, dyed the arms on 2 3/4 poles, because the way I marked the arms, I couldn't dye over that. Let it dry, put it back in, did not affect the balance. Now, like I've told people, armature dye could affect the balance if someone put an abnormally thick coat on one pole over the other 2, or maybe over 2 poles and not 1. But armature dye is kind of just like a stain. You just put enough on there to where it turns.
I mean, really, all armature dye is what?
It's layout
machinist
fluid.
dye?
Yeah, it's layout fluid. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing to it.
Right. So you
Don't
just
spill it.
the only reason you put it on is to keep the stacks from rusting. That's the only reason you put the dye on there.
Yeah.
Now, well,
I mean, either that or if you got a good bit in like a hole and it dried.
Right.
You know, I may throw it off.
Yeah, but then again, now you're putting it on really thick.
Yeah.
So, okay, so armature dye does not affect the balance. In most ways, guys, balance. Unless somebody puts on a abnormally thick coat on one or two poles, it doesn't affect the balance. So the third question, it was a very good question, and it was one that I had always wondered about. I never tested it, and I'll explain it. So the question was, does a pinion on the motor affect the armature balance? And I always said, yeah, maybe it does, and if it does, there's nothing you can do about it because you have to solder your pinions on your motor. I mean, you have to run a pinion, and it has to be soldered on. So as long as you don't have big globs of solder hanging out the backside of the pinion between the bushing or bearing and the pinion, then you shouldn't have any extra weight there to
throw it off.
Right. But does the pinion actually affect the balance? And you know, like I told the guy that asked the question, I said, well, yeah, maybe it does, but how are you going to put your pinion on? I mean, you gotta put a pinion. If just putting a pinion on there makes it go out of balance, there's nothing you can do about it because you have to run a pinion.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got to solder it on. So it's like
beats the old ways of pressing them on because then you got to worry about bending the shaft.
Right. And then at the same time, even if you sat down and soldered your pinions on, and then you balanced the armatures, and then when you took the pinion off to put the arm in the motor, you'd have to put that pinion back on that shaft exactly where it came off.
Exact amount of solder and location.
Right, if that affects the balance. Okay.
Right.
So, when I was balancing the armatures, I took two armatures, and okay, let's try this. So I balanced the first arm down to 0, went over, tinned the shaft, heated up, pushed the pinion on, didn't have any excess solder or anything, good clean, job. It was I think it was a 10-tooth 64 pitch ARP angle pinion, if that matters. And let it cool. I put it back in the balancer. It didn't even affect it half a milligram. And I was kind of surprised.
Right.
Because I was expecting it to probably go out 3 or 4 milligrams just because you got this weight out there slinging around.
Right.
But it did not affect the balance. So arm 2, same deal. Did not affect the balance. I use the same pinion for both.
Right.
I got a really good round pinion because I don't check pinion.
I don't. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, same pinion, 2 different arms. It didn't even affect it a half a milligram. I mean, the meter just barely moved a little bit. So the person asked the question thought that maybe that weight affected the balance, but we don't balance by weight on slot car armatures. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a tire.
You're not adding, you're taking away.
Right. Because the thing, he thought maybe adding the weight to it would change
rotation.
Right. But it didn't. So, as
far as question,
it was a great question. Yeah, and like I said, it was something that I had thought of years ago, and I thought, why is the sense even checking it? Because again, you got to solder the pinion on. You have to run a pinion. I mean,
I like questions like that because we deal with this stuff so much. Sometimes we overthink or we don't think about the obvious.
Right.
So that's what I like with the questions being asked. Is it's like you thought about it, but you never really thought about it, and someone brings it up. It's like,
Right. So you go to these big races, and you'll see some guys have what they call a pinion checker. They solder the pinions on their motors, or they slide them on the shafts, and it's got a dial indicator, and they're trying to see how
out of whack it is.
Yeah. Well, I have never ever in 30 plus years of slot racing.
Yeah.
I don't even own a pinion checker. And I never thought it was that important. I still don't think it's that important. My thing was if you put a new pinion on your car, or if you have a pinion and you put in, let's say you've got a used pinion and you put a new spur on and it's noisy, then you probably need to change your pinion.
Right.
If you have a used spur and you put a new pinion on and you got noise, you should probably change your spur gear. I mean, I'm a believer that you should always run new pinions with new spur gears.
Right.
You know, it's like I always call it putting a new transmission in the car.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of times I've run a used pinion with a new spur gear. As long as it's quiet and it meshes good, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if your gears on your car are noisy, you know, like if you put a new pinion on and a new spur and that thing is noisy and you can't get it to be unnoisy or it vibrates a lot, change the pinion because maybe you got a bad pinion. But
yeah, it could be a number of things. It could be axle bushing, can bearing.
I'm just saying I'm just talking gears themselves.
Right.
I've seen people put new pinions in their cars and go out and it sounds worse than what it was before. And it's like, did you change the spur and the crown? Yep.
Or
go put another pinion on it.
Yeah.
And they change the
make sure you don't have it mixed up because I've done it before. Count it 10 tooth. Yeah, it's 10 tooth. I know it's 10 tooth, but it's 72 pitch.
Right.
And I'm trying to mesh it with 64.
Right.
You know, to maybe do half a lap and strip, and it's like yeah, there's something ain't right here.
Right. And I mean, you know, there's EDM cut pinions, which are very expensive, versus the machine pinions, which is more common. And I would say like maybe 10% of the slot racers run EDM pinions. You know, it's your Eurosport guys and your Group 7 guys that run EDM cut pinions. But, and I'm not saying there's not guys in other classes that don't. I'm just saying that's
a little overkill.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, when you're paying $20-25 for a pinion,
right?
You know, that's not affordable to a lot of people. So
they have the problem where I can't unsolder a pinion and solder it on. Like if I'm testing motors, every motor has to have a pinion.
Well, it makes it quicker and easier. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's just like, why don't you just unsolder it and solder it back on? That's why when people look at my gears, like, why do you have so many gears? And it's like, well, believe it or not, at one point, all them gears were on motors.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So
just over the years, you know, people ask me, why do you have so many motors? It's like, well, when I first started racing, this is all we raced, you know?
And and the other types, I mean, there's another type of pinion that when you get into like your when you find like the old Death Star pinions, pinions that come on ready to run motors, like
press-ons.
Yeah, a lot of those motors are cut from pinion wire. Like it's a long piece of wire that's got the number of teeth cut into it, and then they drill it, or they cut them, and then they drill it. And you'll find a lot of those out around. But your machine pinions that you're paying $5, $6, $7, $8 for,
right?
You know, they're blanked out, you know, drilled, blanked out, put on a machine.
I forget who it was. Someone has a video of them actually machining a spur gear.
You can go on to YouTube and look up like gear hobbing, HOBBING, and it might not be slot car gears,
right?
But it shows how a gear is hobbed.
Yeah,
where the teeth
I remember in machining class when we started threading rod.
Right.
It was kind of neat doing that. Just as far as you know, you got to have the bit a certain degree and a certain angle, and then you had Class A, Class B, Class C thread, you know.
Right.
Class B, you kind of, you know, C's you could practically spin on. A's you got to wrench it on.
Right.
So.
Yep. So yeah, like you know, I've actually watched slot car pinions be hobbed. And I've seen blanks come off screw machine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they're you know they come off in a little I don't know, kind of look like an armature slug without a shaft in it.
Right.
But it's got the hole. And then they put it into the hobber, which a shaft, the pinion blank goes onto a shaft, and it hobs or cuts the teeth. And so that's another thing too. I mean, when it comes to cutting gear teeth, I mean, there's angle pressure and there's all these other things that go into gears.
Yep.
And you know, like I can think back to times where companies that made gears made a bad batch of gears, where maybe the angle of the tooth was off a little bit, or the pressure was off a little bit. It's like, wow,
different
that
softness
batch
and
of gears
hardness
is
of the
really
plastic.
noisy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can remember one time there was like a batch of really soft bronze out there. Because they like the old metal gears, which had aluminum hub or magnesium hub and a bronze ring that
Right.
the teeth were cut into. I mean, this one, again, no names mentioned, but I used a particular band and never had any problems. I got some new spur gears and went to a race, and it was like, man, within a few laps, these things are real pointy and noisy, and like, So I put another one on, and same deal, and
I'm having a problem with
I,
spur hubs lately.
I'm
It's like
looking,
whatever.
I can see like the powder, and I call the company on when I get back on Monday. I said, I think you have a soft batch of bronze right now because these things like didn't last very many laps and got real pointy, and day later I got a call back, yep, we got a bad batch of bronze, thanks for letting us know. So
Right.
that's
Just like the
another
guys
thing.
down here at job sites bending steel. We got
Right.
one guy, if we get a certain batch in, and he'll buy a bundle of rebar and go to bending it because he does fabricated rebar.
Right.
If it bends good and it doesn't snap and he can work with it, he'll
Right.
buy a whole truckload of it.
Right.
And then there's one time we got a batch in, he couldn't do a 90 and snap it in half. And he's like, dude, that's too hard.
Right.
And we found out, well, it's because it was made in America.
Right.
It's easier to bend Chinese metal than it is American metal.
And like I said, I mean, that's another. I mean, if you buy something and you're used to using it, and you have a problem with it, you should always never be afraid to contact the manufacturer and tell them that there's a problem.
Right.
Because manufacturers don't know until it's like they ship it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No one says nothing. They think everything's fine.
Yep.
You can have a big problem and not know it if no one says anything. So
What is it they always say? Don't complain about the problem if you're not going to do anything to fix the problem.
well, you can be part of the problem, or you can be the solution.
Yeah. A lot of people, oh, I don't want to, like,
Yep. So
it doesn't hurt just to say, hey, if you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, that may help.
So that's how the show goes. We start talking about commutators and wind up on pinions, but
That's me and you.
it was all intertwined.
They should always listen to our conversations before the show because we talk about slot car stuff before the show too.
Usually as long or longer than the show is. But anyway, so
then there's the after show where it's like, oh yeah,
yeah. So other than that, I really don't have much to talk about. Okay, so this kind of was behind the scenes. There was a lot of jibber jabber about how do you build a motor after some pictures were posted of magnets being glued in setups. So, so I mean, like, okay, so you build motors, I build motors. You got all your parts on the bench. Like, what's the first thing you do?
Building a motor?
Yeah.
Or installing magnets?
Let's say you're building a 16D motor.
All right.
A built 16D motor. You got your can, your end bell, your magnets.
Normally, I make sure the can's straight.
Okay.
I dry fit the magnets just to kind of see what the air gap is.
Sure.
And then I have some right way wedges.
Right.
That I've had machined down the middle because how Pro Slot's got the notches fingers. That kind of And I don't know about anyone else, but just me personally, anytime I've ever used those wedges, my magnet tips have come out, however you want to say it. I'm from the South. Perfect.
Come out fine. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
Bake them, pull them out, check the tips. Okay, 1,000, 3,000 off. I don't think it's that big of a difference.
Right.
Then obviously I check the air gap. If it's a 580, this thing right here is a flat full of slugs.
Right.
Install the bushing or bearing or whichever, And then generally after that, I go to the end bell And then I build the end bill off the can, make sure everything's aligned that way.
Okay, so when you put your bushing in,
Mm-hmm.
you put the bushing on the slug, put the slug in the setup.
Yep.
Do you then solder it in, or do you actually screw the end bell to the can?
I know I will solder it in.
Okay.
Then I'll build the end bell. But generally, after I get the end bell built, I got the T-bars.
Yeah.
Then I check the alignment on everything. And there has been times where I've had to unsolder the
Right.
bushing or bearing and adjust it
Right.
or whatnot. But generally, more times than none, I've been pretty close, if not right on.
Right.
Because there was one time where the bar was all funky, and I'm like, heated it up.
Okay, so there's two two ways you can go about putting the bushing or bearing in.
I know some guys build the end bell first and then build the can.
Well, okay, so what
I did it both ways. There's really no set way to ask me how to build a motor because it's just like,
Well, did you ever use a can slug to put your bushing in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because
I just don't like I've built motors with a bushing and then later came back and put a bearing in because I don't want to put a bearing in the oven.
Right. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is straighten the can,
mm-hmm.
and then use the can slug and put the bushing in the can.
Right.
Then you put your magnets in using a slug,
mm-hmm.
because you're basing everything off your oil light or your bushing bearing and your end bell.
Mm-hmm.
And then into the oven to cure, and then out, install your end bell. Again, using a slug and everything.
Right.
And everything should line up. I mean, there's a couple different ways of doing it. I just didn't know. And I mean, if you use wedges, then you're not using the slug along with bearing alignment.
Right.
When you put your magnets in the can. So different guys do it different ways.
Right.
And I'm not saying there's a right way or a wrong way.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. I know guys, they don't even use that. They just throw the magnets in there.
I mean, when I first started, I didn't even know what a slug was. I mean, we just put the magnets in one side at a time. And
right. So I've had guys send me motors to zap, and it's just like, let me just check the tips. It'd be 20, 30 thousandths off.
Right.
It's just like, how is this thing as fast as it is?
Well, I know.
It's just like, hey, if it works,
Right.
I'm too nitpicky where everything has to be. I normally give myself a 5 thousandths tolerance. And then I see stuff like that. And it's like, I know that motor's beat me 7 or 8 times.
Right.
And it's just like, I'm just going to zap it and send it back because that makes my head hurt.
Yep. And if you go and take it apart and straighten it out, it may never run like it did.
Oh, some of the viewers may not know I'm finicky about cleanliness,
Not quite Russell Sheldon cleanliness, but pretty damn close.
Yeah. And it's just, I think we've talked about it before on the show when you were like, don't touch the car, it works.
Yep.
Put his motor in it, give it back to him. And I was just like, you do it. I can't touch this thing.
It worked well.
And I think, what was it, like 2 or 3 weeks later, you're like, I had that car on the block, and wow. And I'm like, hey, it worked.
It worked that day, but, man, that car was whacked.
Yeah.
And it didn't get whacked in the race. It was whacked before the race, but.
Oh, yeah. Well, trust me, I was well aware of that because I remember looking at it like, how in the hell does this even go around the track?
I know. You look at it and you're like, this makes no sense. This shouldn't even.
Yeah, I was like, go ask him. I think your exact words were, leave it alone.
I said, hey, if it works, put your motor in it. Get mine out of there and put yours in it. Okay.
Good times.
He finished 4th, didn't he?
Beat me.
He might have been 3rd. No, he was 4th.
Yeah. I think it was you,
No,
Russell.
It was Russell, me, and
right, I was just saying top 3, not necessarily in order.
Yeah.
And then it was Nick.
Nick was 3rd.
And it may have been him, then it may have been me.
He was 4th. I think you were 5th. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that car.
I've always people, I mean, they've always complimented me on the cleanliness of my stuff. And it's just
Your stuff is
I've always
clean.
been how I've always been.
See, my stuff is clean when I start, but if the car is
Right.
working, I don't clean. I just keep
Yeah,
taking the
see.
place
Well, I
and
guess with me, it's I'll race one weekend out of the month,
right.
and I just
Yeah.
can't come back and just leave it there. It's like,
Well, no, well, I know. See, my problem is I race too much if that's a problem. But
right,
come back. Go race flexi cars. Come back. Got to get ready for a retro race next week. So it's like
right.
put flex cars away. Start thinking about the retro cars. And sometimes when I should be working on stuff on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I wait till Thursday and do everything.
It's just
Or
like
do what I
pre-show. What was
gotta
I
do.
telling you? It's like
Right.
this is the latest I have ever waited to work on cars for a national event. You know, normally 2-3 months before you got my arms, and I think what you just sent them back. I just got them back this week.
Right.
You know, and it's just like it's been busy.
I'm not even touched the cars yet. I haven't painted bodies yet. But I mean I got time.
Oh, your concourse winning paint jobs.
Yeah.
I know that'll take you a couple weeks to get them things painted up.
Well, I gotta paint other people's bodies too, but no, I go quick and easy. But I'm just saying, I got a lot to do yet.
That's like me. I'm looking at arms and setups now. Just like,
Right.
I try to think about what I've already done versus what I need to get done.
Right.
But yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yeah, and then
Then after that, turn around and get ready for the Palooza. But at least Palooza, you don't have to worry about tires and you don't have to worry about motors.
Yep. Real simple. Yeah. Just mount you some big, thick bodies. And that's another thing.
No mask.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I haven't talked to Ernie, so I don't know exactly. Like I said, a week ago, I think there was about 10 spots open, or less, 10 or less. I don't know if it's full up or not.
Right.
I haven't talked to him. And the ISRA signups opened earlier this week on Monday. And
you going?
Oh, I'm not going. I mean, okay, like I may go to spectate part of the week.
Right.
And then maybe do a little vacationing while I'm there. Because I really.
So you'll fly to England. That means you'll fly me to Indiana, and I'll balance your arms and take care of everything while you're out. Yeah.
Well, a couple people said, "Why don't you be my teammate in production?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know what weekend I'm going to go."
Right. Yeah. You don't know if you're going to go to the beginning or the end.
Well, I'm not going to the race. I'm going there like to see people that I met when I was there in 1997, and
right. Yeah. That'd be fun.
Just hang out and have some fun, and then maybe spend a couple of days in London because I didn't do any of that stuff when I went there the first time. So.
Yeah, you were just there, just strictly business.
But I'm getting to the golden ages of my life, and I don't really see myself going back to England.
Right.
So.
That's just like me and Bobby were talking today, like bucket list,
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, next year, I get to knock one off because I'm pretty sure I'm going to California for the Nats.
Right.
Always wanted to go to California. I know people have different views on California. I know it's weird. I want to go, but I want to go.
California's a blast.
And then I also want to go to Alaska to see the Northern Lights. So
we could have seen those the other like a week or so ago.
Yeah, I seen something on Facebook where they were saying that the sky was going to be clear enough or whatnot, like parts of Indiana. And
I had seen them. I don't know, probably 20 years ago when they said one night you should be able to see the Northern Lights, and kind of went out in the country where it was real dark, and you can see them. I mean, I'm sure as you go farther north, it gets more vivid.
Right. Yeah.
And then there was one time there was like going to be this big meteor shower.
Right.
I go outside and I'm looking, and like I don't see any meteors.
Right.
But then I quit focusing. I just kind of like you're like looking off into the nowhere,
daydreaming. Yeah.
And then things were shooting all over. Like it was like, wow. You try, and as soon as you focus, you couldn't. But yeah, if you just
the thing with me is I wouldn't say I live like in the city, but I live in the city.
Right.
So it's like, if I want to see anything like that, I got to go 20, 30 minutes up the road where it's good and dark.
Right.
And
Yep.
I mean, there was a couple mornings where we were running to a particular, they were building a warehouse out in the middle of the country. It was probably an hour drive. It was a Friday, and I just wanted to get an early start. And it's different driving at night,
Right.
I seen, I guess it was a shooting star or whatever.
Yeah,
that's just like, why?
See a lot of that stuff on the road driving at night.
Yeah.
And then, but usually by the time it's like, wow, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, shooting star. I missed it. I seen it, like my peripheral vision, but
yeah.
So anyway, Israel signups are open, and we'll report more on that here in the next week or so as we see. I'm sure it's pretty full up. I mean, a lot of guys don't have sign up right now because they're in on points.
Right.
But guys,
what would you say? Like the top 40 are in on points?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah.
Because they take what, 72?
No,
74. But in production, production unlimited?
I don't want to say because it's you know what, it's changed so many times over the years, and I'm not into it enough to know the exact.
Yeah. I mean, I'll follow it.
I think they can have a maximum, and there's just I don't know, maybe a maximum of 120 per class or something. But then the team race, they can have a maximum of maybe 60 or 70 teams.
Right.
It makes for 120 to 140 guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. So,
gotcha.
There you go. That's kind of all I got.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
Nothing I can think of. Ready to go racing.
We will have giveaways next week for sure. Because I was told we could give some stuff away, but it's been a busy week. I mean, that's why the show's a day late, because I never had any time to do it.
I was sick at the beginning of the week. Not like cold sick. I had bad acid reflux, and I was just like, Monday and Tuesday I was down, and then yesterday I think was the first day that I actually felt human and was able to eat something and not feel like I was eating acid.
Right.
I was just like, yeah.
All right. Well, we will close this episode, number 86.
We'll do the secret word of the show.
You go for it.
We'll just say balance.
Balance this week. Okay. We talked about balancing. And I know you asked me to do a balancing
video. Yeah, I just think it'd be neat.
And I just need to have an assistant because I can't.
Well, I'll come up before you go to England and you can show me, and I'll just see it firsthand.
Yeah,
I'll hold the camera.
Yeah, I can't hold and balance, and I don't think I can put the camera in one spot to get.
You have to have the cigarette just right.
No, I mean, to see the meters and then drilling and how it affects. And
growing up, and Dad was alive, we'd always go to this one machinist, and Coca-Cola can be sitting up on top of the machine, and there'd be like a cigarette hanging out the edge of his lip. He'd just be going to town.
And then ash would be like an inch long.
Oh yeah, he'd never touch it. And you were smoking it but I'm just like, my eyes would be burning from just the smoke coming up in my eyes. Nope, never missed a beat.
Nope.
He's missing two of his fingers. I was like, what happened to your fingers? He's like, I went to grab my cigarette. Should have just left it.
Yep.
Lesson learned. Okay. I don't know if he was joking or what, but he was he was missing two fingers. And he was just like, nope.
I had a machine shop teacher. This was like not in school, but later in life, night school type thing. And the point that he rammed home to me was, these machines have no brains. They do not know they are hurting you, and they will kill you.
Yep.
And it's like, he is right.
Biggest thing I seen was you got the key, locks everything down.
Yeah.
My teacher would always say, you never take your hand off of that.
That's right.
Because if your hand's off of that, that means it's not out. We had a kid in our class launch one across the machine shop, out the class sales.
Right. So my machine shop horror story is 7th or 8th grade, junior high. See, back when I went to school, boys had to take home ec, and girls had to take power mechanics or basic machine shop or whatever. So,
Right.
so we were in. Well, I think in one year it was power mechanics, and the next year was like basic machine shop or something. So, power mechanics, you worked on Briggs and Stratton. You had to rebuild a
Yeah, a lot more and stuff like that.
So, in the machine shop, like I said, I don't remember if it was 7th or 8th grade. We had girls in there, and the number one rule is you always tie your hair back, right?
Yep.
So, a girl gets her hair caught in the lathe.
A lathe. Yeah.
I mean, it's pulling her head. I mean, it's just pulling. I mean, she wasn't going very fast.
Right.
It was pulling her head, and she's screaming, and she can't get to the switch. And
yeah,
by the time someone got there to hit the switch, I mean, her like cheek was just like half an inch from getting into the chuck. And she just pulled her hair back. She just pulled her head back.
Right.
And about that time, they hit the machine, and all you could hear was this clunk, 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 clunk. And when it stopped, there was all this hair wrapped around in a like almost a square of her scalp. Clunking. That's
not fun. Yeah.
So
you don't realize how dangerous some of this stuff is. See,
that's my machine shop horror story.
Yeah.
So I never had hair I had to tie back, but
yeah, I don't wear jewelry. Never had to worry about jewelry because that was another thing. We had a guy get his wedding band caught.
I think I did better in home ec than I did actually in machine shop.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough. So thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week in episode 87. If you're going racing this week,
next week will be the 10th if we're on schedule.
Yeah, we should be back on Wednesday night next week.
Yeah.
And if you're going racing this weekend, be safe, have fun, good luck, and we'll see you next week.